In Bible college, I was taught the lie that the scholars of Alexandria were the best in the world. So their copies of Scripture were also the best in the world. I bet many of you were told that too. And we were told that the best examples of Alexandrian scholarship were the giant ancient books, Codex Vaticanus, and especially Codex Sinaiticus. Do you realize that we were told this, but we were never able to see Sinaiticus for ourselves? Think about what that means. It means that not only did we have blind faith in Sinaiticus, a book we'd never seen, we also had blind faith in our professors. Faith in God is one thing, but everyone else? Remember the scripture, Romans 3:4? Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar. Or the paraphrase, in God we trust, all others pay cash. I trust God. I want to trust my Bible too, don't you? I only want the words of God. So if you place your trust in Alexandrian scholars, here's a heads up. I'm about to show you some mistakes in Codex Sinaiticus not found in 5,700 other manuscripts. Could Sinaiticus be the draft copy for something else? Or could it have been a rush job? Let's look at the evidence. Shall we get started? Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. I'm not sure about your experience, but in Bible college, seminary, and about 8 other colleges and universities, I've found that the intellectuals were the first people to change things to suit their own opinions. The average Christians who feared God were way more likely to make sure they don't change a word of what God said. When you fear God, you want to please Him over yourself. Not so with many scholars. Remember, it was the scholars who disputed with Jesus. The common people heard Him gladly. We were presented the oldest and best, as if they had the right to change the historically preserved scriptures. And yet, we were not even allowed to see it until just a few years ago, 2010, when it came online. And a word of warning, don't trust the English translation you find on the codexsinaiticus.org website. I found a clear mistake in it just yesterday. So here are some place mistakes. Jesus came back to Nazareth of Galilee in Matthew 13:54. And when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue. Country, in Greek, is patrida. Sinaiticus changes patrida to antipatrida, Antipatris, 46 miles away from Nazareth of Galilee in Samaria. He was coming to his own Antipatris? That makes no sense. Okay, see? Nazareth, Antipatris. Here's that word, Antipatris, in the Codex, right here. I enhanced the image here and drew over the editor's marks so you can see them. Note that another scribe struck through the letters A-N-T-I, anti, and marked it with a dot above every letter that had to be changed. That was one way that mistakes were noted in the Sinaiticus. Scribe A had read enough of the New Testament to remember that the only place you find this word, Antipatris, is Acts 23:31, when the Roman soldiers brought Paul to Antipatris. He must have written these words from memory, not from a document in front of him. So here, from here to here on the way to Caesarea. You know, I did the same mistake in my Greek class over 33 years ago. when I confused disciple, mathetes, for Matthew, and confused John and Jordan. But I learned to pay closer attention after that. Here's another one that really is about Samaria. Acts 8, verse 5. Then Philip went down to the city of Samaria and preached Christ unto them. That's obvious. This is the section of Acts about Samaria. Every manuscript of 8:5 in the world says Samaria, except Sinaiticus. Scribe of Sinaiticus wrote Caesarea, 24 miles away on the seacoast. People get on the Book of Mormon for confusing Jerusalem and Bethlehem, only 6 miles apart. This is 4 times as far. And remember, it's the only place that mistake has ever been found. Here's where it is on the Codex. Right here. And here is a close-up. As you can see, the corrector was clever. He put 3 dots above the chi of Caesarea, and then added a little ma in the middle, Sa-ma-ria, to make Samaria. It's a great editor's mark. But I can tell you, as an author, you don't want editor's marks in your publication. It actually happened once, but we fixed it. Okay, I already told you how it said that Nazareth was in Judea and not in Galilee, 70 miles away. That was in vlog 153, deleted on purpose. So how about something intriguing? In 2 Timothy 4, verse 10, Paul wrote that the disciple Crescens had departed to Galatia. That agrees with all manuscripts except for 4 minuscules. That means written with lowercase letters. 81, 104, 326, and 436. And Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus. These 5, instead of Galatia, say Gallia, meaning Gaul, right across the English Channel from Britain. That is over 1,200 miles off the mark. Here's where it gets interesting. 81 had been examined by Constantine Tischendorf. And Ephraemi Rescriptus had just been deciphered for the first time by Constantine Tischendorf in 1840 to 1843, 1 year before coming to St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Peninsula. Tischendorf couldn't have had anything to do with the making of the fake Codex Sinaiticus, could he? I tell you, the Sinaiticus is starting to look like one of 2 things: a book draft or a rush job. If it were a book draft, the final copy would have only 1 Chronicles, 1 First Chronicles that is, not 2. Ezra wouldn't start in chapter 9. Isaiah wouldn't be all marked up, nor would Nehemiah. They would have fixed the folia from Mark 15 to Luke 1, so the words weren't all either squeezed in or spread out. But if it were a book draft, where's the final copy? They certainly would have time for that in a monastery. They're supposed to be separated for the Lord's work. They'd have nothing but time, right? So how come we've never seen another codex like Sinaiticus ever? Something that valuable would certainly have been kept somewhere. But there's no clear evidence of this book's existence anywhere before 1844. That would leave the second possibility, a rush job. But a rush job for what? What were they trying to do? Who would believe that this horrible mess of a document is more reliable in ancient Bible than the traditional text? Wait a minute. They do say this horrible mess of a document is more reliable than the traditional text. Almost every Bible in the world has been changed to match it, along with a few other Alexandrian-type Bibles that they've found over the years. So it did work after all. It's beginning to look like this document may have come into existence a short time before 1844. And maybe a quarter of the books from the Old Testament weren't removed because they were never written at all. Maybe they wrote some, but ran out of time to copy it all. Just a thought. Then they would have aged the remaining Old Testament pieces to make it look like the parts were separated or fell apart and hide some evidence away to cover up for some of their mistakes. But remember, they got the Apocrypha, which is something they wanted. I'd love to go further with my theory, but let me leave you with this. The plot is thickening like hasty pudding, but I don't mind. As some of you have already pointed out, I don't have the problems that so many scholars have. I have no position to lose at a university or college for questioning Sinaiticus. I have no church board that will kick me off for suspecting it's not genuine and that the Bibles made from it or using it are actually defective. It won't hurt me if Sinaiticus goes down, along with the Bible-doubting footnotes and translations of most Bibles all over the world since the 1880s, even ones being translated by Wycliffe and SIL and the UBS while I speak. I don't trust Codex Sinaiticus or a single reading in it. I trust what God didn't hide in a corner. I trust his preserved words through faithful common Christians through the centuries, for us in English, faithfully translated in the King James Bible. And I think the truth is going to sink the Titanic, the Sinaiticus. That Bible doubted ship, it's going down. God bless you and have a wonderful day.